that, of course, comes a lot of excitement, but there's also some unease around it. But despite all of that, one thing will never change. We need to keep bringing the human to the forefront of work and culture. And recognition is just one tool we can use to make that happen, make sure everyone feels valued, connected, and seen, even as technology, regardless of if it's AI, something else, regardless of that, to help reshape the world. So for today, we wanted to explore a few key themes. We want to explore the role of recognition in an AI-driven workplace, how we can use AI tools to personalize and scale the humanness, and lastly, to ensure that the technology that we have is supporting us, not replacing us, and that it feeds into authentic connection. So before we do go into introductions, just wanted to launch a quick poll so that we can all start talking about AI, seeing how this group feels about it, where we are in our journey. And as you're all busy with that, I'll pass it around the panel to introduce a little bit more about what you are, what you do, what your company does, just to give us a little bit of context and the perspective that you hope to bring to the conversation today. Stephanie, let's start with you.
Um, I am so sorry. I'm going to be really human. We're going to start that. I just got a ping from my CEO, so I read it while you were reading. So can you please state it again? I'm going to shut this down. Thank you for letting me be human in that. Okay.
No, you're all good. Yeah, so I would just love to kick it off to you to start our introductions. Just a bit more about who you are, what you do, a bit about your company, and the perspective that you hope to bring to the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. So my name is Stephanie Smith. I'm the Chief People Officer at Tagboard. We are a sports media and entertainment company. We focus on cloud-based graphics in the production space. So we're tackling a very, very archaic industry where people would spend lots and lots of money on hardware solutions, and we were able to solve really complex problems in the graphics space with a cloud-based solution with one computer. So you've seen us on Fox Sports, you've seen us on ESPN, you've seen us on the NBA, you've seen us in MLB. We are what you see when you see graphics of players come up. In that, I've been at the company for 10 years, which is a really long time for being at a startup. So it's been really fun. Something's keeping me there. And in that, we've built that program from the ground up. I've had the opportunity for being number one on how we build HR, how we build culture, how we build strategy within business initiatives, how we attract and retain talent, but also how we implement programs like AI. How does it impact the human? How does it impact our day to day? And how does it impact our efficiency in order to achieve our goals? So I've had the privilege to be that person for Tagboard and to be working on those solutions in order to create a space where we can show up as human beings and we can show up in the most authentic way. I've started speaking on AI and integrating AI almost 3 years ago now. So it's been it's been fun to see the evolution of how that has taken shape within our organization and how it's taken shape in our industry.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing, Stephanie, is people in the comments should absolutely ask all the questions. You'll probably have some experiences and stories to share. So I invite all of you to pick Stephanie's brain, um, as well as Anna and Kim's brains as well. Kim, would you like to go next on the introductions?
Sure, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kim Cyphers. I'm the Director of Product Adoption and Solution Consulting at PeopleFluent, and we are an organization that supports our customers and our prospects in their talent journey, right? So spanning everything from onboarding to retirement, right? By enabling organizations to automate their performance management processes, which may include one-on-one conversations, ongoing feedback, right? Performance evaluations, succession planning, compensation, as well as learning management. And I think, when we talk about AI and how we are enabling our leaders to know how to use AI effectively and to how to best personalize it, especially when it comes to feedback. Because you really need to be genuine and really help. It's an avenue to help build trust. So I've been with PeopleFluent for 15 years. And prior to being with People Fluent, I was with a healthcare organization for 15 years in HR organizational development. So been around for a long time.
Love it. All right,
Thank you.
Anna.
Thank you, Becca. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this session. I'm Anna Kishore, the head of products here at Bucket List. Bucket List is a rewards and recognition SaaS platform. We scale the platform to increase engagement, productivity, and reduce retention continuously by helping organizations build great culture. So I have been with Bucket List for a little over a year now. I'm just so excited about this whole journey and very, very happy to join Steph and Kim in this session. The timing is just perfect because BL is exploring in AI so much now. So yes, thank you again for everybody joining this session. Back to you, Becca.
Amazing. Thank you. So yes, everyone, pick their brains, ask lots of questions. We have practitioners, we have product folks, consultants. So I'd love to chat. All right, let me end the poll here and share the results so we can all take a look at what folks have been saying. All right, so for the first question, to what degree is your organization currently using AI? It's pretty split between everything except fully integrated. For the panel, does this surprise you? Is it what you've been seeing as well? Any thoughts, questions, comments?
I think it's fascinating. I think that I was expecting a little bit more, a higher percentage in exploring options and not at all, just based off of the demographic here. I think that when we have a more focus on HR, we see more of a lag on adopting new age and progressive solutions just because of the risk and the compliance efforts that we're focusing in on. So it's really exciting to actually see that we have people piloting tools and we have people using AI regularly. So it can help us kind of shift our content in the way that we handle the rest of the hour. So that's really exciting.
Love it. Anna, Kim, anything to add before we talk about question 2?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Stephanie. You know, it's I think somewhat what I expected. I feel like everybody is still in this exploration, early implementation, not sure where, when, how much. So it's nice to see everybody's kind of, you know, somewhat in the same type of boat, if you will, and just getting that framework established and understanding how the organization is best going to use it.
Totally. Anna, anything you would like to add?
I completely am with Steph and Kim on this one because AI has always existed, but it's just catching all its craze and spotlight in the last year, I would say. So the polling answers look very apt. So people are still exploring beyond everything. They're still learning, they're understanding more about AI because there is some risk and apprehensions to use it. So the answers are just very perfect. I wouldn't have expected anything different from this. Yeah, but I'm sure if we were to post this question in the next 2 years, I would see more votes on the fully integrated into strategy than any other thing because people would have got more educated about it. And I'm very positive that's where we will be seeing more votes going forward. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So right, it feels more readily accessible now to the everyday person. So that makes sense. All right, question 2. Where are you experimenting with AI the most right now? And so it's leaning towards L&D, which is cool. And then second place is recruiting and hiring and engagement feedback / not experimenting yet. Recognition and rewards, very, very small percentage. So it's interesting, Stephanie Mills in the comments asking whether Bucket List is integrating AI into recognition yet. So yeah, we'll touch on that later on. But before that, panelists, any thoughts around question 2 and how people are using and experimenting right now?
I think it feels very aligned with where the market is in terms of, I think the biggest push as with the HR industry has been recruiting and talent acquisition, of making sure that we kind of focus on an efficiency of coordination. And so it's on the scheduling end. I think as we kind of go, sadly the poll closed for me, so I can't see all of them, but I think as we go more into L&D and we go kind of more into compliance and we go more into the more big strategic, thank you so much. We go more into the strategic buckets. I think that's where we're going to kind of see the fun and the meat of it all. I love seeing engagement and feedback. Like and seeing recognition and rewards, even that 4%, I think that when we lean into feedback and utilizing it, and I know Kim, Anna, and I had a really good conversation about this before, so I'm excited to like dabble into it, but like understanding how we can be writing better, how we can give better unbiased feedback, how we can lean into the individual rather than the tasks, and focusing in on how we can be more human. Those are the human elements that we can really focus in on AI, and excited to dive into that.
Yeah. And I think for me, myself, I think these polls look very apt, and to what Steph says, that 4% is, I'm not surprised at all. If you look at the recruiting, learning, development industries, they have always existed. To me, rewards and recognition is a very young industry. So the industry itself is just upcoming industry. So there's more to learn about the industry. So AI is another new thing. So there's people still exploring. So that 4% just makes so much of sense, while you're seeing an uptick in both recruiting and learning, because it's an established industry. And so they're trying to put in the technology much faster, so all of the mundane work can go back and people can get some time back onto their calendars. So this looks to me so perfect. But again, as I said, in a few more years, all of these votes and answers would be shifting towards what we see so low today would actually have a tick going forward, is what I'm thinking. Now, what do you think, Kim?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting, I think, as we, talk about recruiting and learning really being the kind of our first step in the HR world into utilizing AI and really finding more efficient ways to narrow down our funnels of potential candidates and identifying who's the best for the role for the organization. And then learning and development, I think some of it is organizations being able to be more efficient and effective in using AI to help them create learning content and courses more rapidly, because we all know the workforce, is shrinking, right? We're trying to find faster, more efficient ways to get the work done without burning out our team members, right? And I think that's the key part of having rewards and recognition and engagement as a part of your HR strategy, recognizing that not everybody's there yet, right? 31% of us are focusing in on those areas. There's still probably a lot of work to do. So making sure we're also coupling that with, the recognition and the rewards for all of the people that are doing that work, right?
Huge.
Absolutely. Well, this is a really great segue into the start of a fireside chat. So when we discussed last week, we thought it'd be really great to start with a question on a broader end with a bigger picture around generative AI. So we're already seeing generative AI shape workplace culture and the employee experience in all these different ways that we're saying in the experimentals. And so, Stephanie, I'll have you kick us off. Where are you noticing this most? And if it's helpful, we can totally start by defining culture in this context.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of us know this. Culture used to be what we thought was in the tech space specifically, was ping pong tables and hoverboards and beer on tap and coffee on tap and like what we're doing at the water cooler. And I think that was like a really sexy way of looking at culture. And what we've really honed in on over the last 5 to 10 years is, if that's not culture, those are perks. And when we identify that culture is the trust that we're building, how we're making decisions, how we're communicating, how we're collaborating, the level of loyalty, when we see that that definition of culture is defined, we're able to understand how AI can add to that. When we think of culture as perks, AI is confusing. That the end game doesn't make sense. So when we look at culture of how we're building this relationship amongst each other and our company, I think what is really exciting about how AI can shape that workplace is kind of focusing in more on innovation and being more human-centered. How do we lead with curiosity? How do we become more innovative? How do we produce more products? How do we communicate better? And that means the elimination of those admin tasks. And I think that when I think about how AI is shaping culture, it's allowing talents to come out and come forth, where I think a lot of our talents have been bogged down. I'm sorry, the sun is beautiful, but intense. I think a lot when we think about AI and we think about what burns our team out, it's not the strategy sessions, it's not the brainstorming, it's not the production of ideas. What burns our talent out is repetitive admin tasks. And I think, and it's not utilizing our skill set. So when we're able to utilize our skill set at a rapid pace, and have more connection, I think that's when a lot of companies are seeing more output. And I think that's where AI, like really honing in on where AI can help us, is really focusing on our skill sets, our talents, and reducing those admin tasks. It is beautiful, but holy moly, it isn't it?
No, it's stuff. I love what you're saying about how that there's that shift, right? Because years ago, when I was, first starting my career, I started in tech as well. It was just looking at all the job descriptions, and when it got to like the culture piece, it was like, yes, we have ping pong tables, we have beer on tap on Fridays, and then that was kind of like the epitome, like, that means this company cares about culture. It has such great.
Totally.
Was totally the mindset back then. So.
I will never forget. I sat in a meeting once, and one of the leaders at a company I was at was like, "We need more hoverboards." And I was like, "That's not true. Like that's not going to keep our people here when they like want to be with their family, but you're saying that they need to stay here until 10 p.m. Like do you want more hoverboards? Sure. But that's not going to increase your production. That's not going to increase your revenue. What's going to increase your revenue is a loyalty and an accountability to your product and accountability to your mission. Those hoverboards are a little distracting, first of all, extremely dangerous from an HR perspective. We're increasing liability, but also it's not going to say like, I'm here because of that. And I think once we kind of like understood that, I think COVID had a lot to do with it in terms of like really taking away, like forcing us to go away from that and focusing in on like, how do we honor an individual and what keeps that individual here? And it's going to be different for every single one of them. And it made our jobs a lot more fun, and it made our jobs a lot harder. And I think this is why I got into it a few years ago, is like, I've always been seen as this progressive HR leader, but it's not progressive. It's thinking of what the human needs, what I needed in the workplace. Honestly, it started a little bit selfish. And I think once we understand that all of us have different learning styles and communication styles and adoption styles, when we understand those, we can say, okay, how can we programize this? How can we create integrative programs around what everybody individual needs in order to increase that ROI? Oof.
Yeah. And I think to tag on to that, Stephanie, a big part of that culture is enabling our leaders with more time to do those recognitions, right? And have more time allotted to communicate with their employees, especially post-COVID. Not everybody's in the office together, right? Some are getting back there, but there's still a lot of remote scenarios where you don't see your manager every day. So it's even more critical, I think, that the leaders have more time to do that. So having AI available to be able to help reduce some of those mundane admin tasks, right, that I spend hours on, whether it's analyzing reports or whatever it may be, can free up some time for them to focus on those more culture-centric type of things. And I think part of that is, many organizations are starting to realize is that a lot of our leaders aren't necessarily AI smart, I guess I would call it. So what are we doing to enable our leaders to use AI more effectively, right? And to prompt it with the right type of questions for what you're looking for from an outcome perspective. And so I'm starting to hear a lot of our customers are asking those questions. Yes, I want to use it to help them rewrite comments, right? But I want to make sure they're also personalizing it. So it's making sure our leaders are comfortable with providing feedback, both positive and developmental, right? It doesn't have to always be, you're doing this great. It may be, hey, I saw you in this meeting. You did a great job. However, here's a couple of things I think we could improve upon. And it may be that PowerPoint presentation, right? And maybe if you put it into, ChatGPT or whatever AI source you're using to help you rewrite it, could help you summarize it more quickly.
Yeah. Kim, I think you made a very interesting point as you were starting to give your response. You did say that AI is very good in taking away all those mundane tasks from people's hands and giving the time back. So if I were to tie it to what Becca was asking, Steph, how do we do the culture? So to me, if AI is giving us the time back, what we do or what organizations do with that time is what defines culture. So
Yeah.
that's where
Mm.
so much of time back now you could actually be using to build that culture. So we could use that AI to make some great work visible and keep it fair,
Yeah.
right? Like which ties directly to retention. Apart from all that you said about managers' education and everything, that coaching can help those recognitions be made more visible and fair. Second thing that comes to my mind is because of AI, because this is something that I'm sure across many organizations we do use AI for this. AIs are now used in meetings. So we are able to create those shared context without more meetings. So that means those summaries and translations that comes through those meetings. Frontline and remote workers probably are not the last to know. They are also in the loop like any other people are. So AI is actually shrinking that insider outsider gap. Third, if we Third, to me, as you spoke about the skills, I don't know if Kim or Steph, so one of you pointed towards skills. So third thing is AI is also constantly shifting us from jobs to skills. So it's AI is constantly clarifying the roles expectation and it's pointing people towards that learning path. So growth feels so attainable within the organization. So at
Yes,
the end
that's
of
such
the
a
day,
good point.
end of
Yep.
the day, beside all this culture, I think AI has some great advantages, and it completely depends on how you see it and how you embrace it. And when if it's giving you the time back, let's use it to build some great culture.
Yeah.
Mm, good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you talk about kind of that upskilling or reskilling that goes along with it, I saw a study the other day from HR.com that noted that, from an HR perspective and AI, there has been about 60% of the organizations are really focusing in on those analytics, right? How can the analytics team leverage AI to present or provide leaders with more streamlined analytics? So they're not having to look at a spreadsheet and analyze, what does this mean? What should I look at? The teams now can leverage AI to provide that information out to leaders, therefore, freeing up some time on their standpoint to, do other things that are really driving that culture.
I think one of the, both of you, Anna and Kim, just made me think of when we talk about adding like K culture is like how we work, right? That's how we think about it sometimes or internally. And I challenge the team a lot with how do we add playful work in, right? For just utilizing another part of our brain. And when I think about AI, one of the things you mentioned, Kim, about analyzing something like, oh, I spent a lot of time like analyzing a study. And what I love about the synthesization, I said that word wrong. Somebody correct me. Anyone? You all know what I mean. Thank you. Of data, and we're like sitting in it and we're like, okay, we're understanding the patterns and we're creating templates and we want to see what that recognition looks like or so on and so forth. And the amount of hours we have all spent in spreadsheets or even in like qualitative data, and we're reading it and we're trying to understand it. One of the things that we do as a team now is we're utilizing AI to give us a better analytics of the data that we have, right? So we challenge our team with, okay, we go back into playful work. What if? I don't know if any of you have played the what if game. Pretend that we're going into our childlike mentality, and sometimes I tell the team, get crayons, get paper. We're gonna go, what if the sky was green, right? So when we're able to go into see our work, we have all of the data that we need, and we get to ask the questions we never had the time to ask to see if our business is doing the right thing. And for us, that's part of culture. How do we bring play into work when we didn't have the time to do that before because we were so bogged down into data? And I think it allows us to shift the meaning of why we're here, and what else we can add to that work in a really innovative way, because now we have the time. I think that's really meaningful. And I think those are the things that we never thought business could do. I have a chair right here, and my son will sit on it sometimes, and I work in sports, and he's like, "Mommy, why are you talking about sports? What the heck?" I'm like, "Bud, I work in sports. Like, it's so cool." And then he goes, "Well, why do you have crayons on your desk if you work in sports? Like, athletes don't use crayons." And I was like, "I get to dream, and I get to make those dreams come to reality because I'm allowed to, because I work in a place that honors and identifies creativity as part of our culture." And I just think that wasn't the case when I was in college. It wasn't the case when I watched my parents work. It's like we have the privilege to be able to shape what culture looks like now. And I think it's due to AI and the introduction of us allowing to identify what is worth our time and what we're allowed to give off.
Yeah, and that, Stephanie, that brings up to me, a great point of recognizing we have multiple generations in our workforce today.
Four. We've never had
Especially,
four.
so those older generations, that notion of thinking beyond and being innovative is not necessarily, natural for them. That's not
Mhm.
something they've ever been allowed to do per se or encouraged to do. And I think now we're just in a different, we're in a different place. We have the ability to allow our younger generations to influence and show our older generations how we can do it and how productive we can be in, leveraging these tools that we have available to us.
I just love
All
how
the snaps for that one.
I love what Steph said. We are allowed to dream. Yes, that's
Yeah.
something. Bring our play life into work. That's all something we've done in the
Yep.
past.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the AI was giving Tagboard the time back to, flesh out the culture and be like, this is our culture, this is how we're gonna be able to like live it and give people the time to actually. Because a lot of times I think companies say their culture is one thing and you're like, but how? I don't see how you're doing it. But
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have to be cognizant of as HR and leaders is as we're able to provide time back by leveraging AI, we also have to encourage that outside of the box thinking and that innovation to actually happen and not just fill it with other tasks that may not be AI driven yet. Right. So I think that's the important thing from a culture standpoint that the organization should reinforce is that, yes, we're giving you more time back, but you need to be spending it, doing these things, being innovative, recognizing your team members, driving that culture so that we're retaining our employees and not having to continue to, bring new people in. That's the ultimate goal.
I think about all of us dream with me or reminisce with me. It's 1995. You go in to get a new job, you have a paper application, you get hired, and now you're filling out all of your background data. You're filling out 7 different locations of where you lived. You have a stack of paper, and your HR director takes it and says, "Thanks. I'm going to put it in your employee file."
Yeah.
Okay. Early 2000s hit, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I get to enter," well, let's say mid 2000s, "I get to enter all of this into an HRIS system." And the adoption change that it took from taking our stacks of paper, I was there, I did it, I hated it. I remember calling my mom being like, "I hate HR. What is this?" Because I did not want to do that. And we took our stacks of paper and we put them in the computer. And the amount of pushback I'm sure 99% of us had in transitioning hard paper onto the computer and the amount of fear we had in that change. This is the exact same thing. And we're gonna look back in 5-10 years and be like, do you remember how like we were so scared? And this is amazing. And I think about it all of the time. No, I don't miss, or me neither. It was horrible.
When the chat.
Yes, I mean, we all know it. It's like that. And I think people are going into this because cinema and movies and media industry are like, I mean, they just launched another movie about AI taking over the world. And it's like, okay, we can take, how do you eat a pizza? One bite at a time, right? Like we can take this one bite at a time, take our paper into an HRIS, take AI and transition us into a little bit how we can be more innovative. And I think that like, if you think of it that way, it's more digestible and less scary.
No. And this is a really great segue into our next question too that I want to touch on really quickly. So with the thing that you're talking about, Steph, where there is like some pushback, and we did see
Yeah.
a poll question where, you know, not everyone, not a lot of people have it fully integrated, because I'm sure there is some pushback. And so definitely we'll have to have a little chat about what the biggest concerns are when it comes to AI and culture building. And folks in the chat, if there's something that comes to mind for you as well that's getting the pushback, please post in the chat. We'd all love to just talk about it. But I think Stephanie, I would love to pass this one to you first.
Yeah, I think from an HR perspective, we always talk about risk mitigation, right? And if like that's like one of our primary focuses of our job is risk mitigation and compliance and identification and all the good stuff. And I think that when we're looking at integrating AI, I think one of the biggest things is how it works with protecting our data, and protecting the information that we know can't be shared, and working with legal and finance to ensure that we're doing it correctly. I also think there's like bias risks too. And I think a lot of us get nervous about like, okay, well, if we introduce this, like, it's all like there's a lot of bias in or in AI right now. And I think if we, one of the best ways, like a really tangible solution to all of this is working really cross-functionally and collaboratively with legal and finance and IT and building up that policy. How do we use this? What is a practical way of using this? And what are off limits? I know when we talk about ChatGPT at Tagboard all the time, and people have their enterprise accounts, and in our policy, we launched our policy, and you do not use names. You use zero identifiable information into public systems. You wouldn't go put your bank card number and anything else. It's very similar things that we know we have to think through. I think some people feel a lot more trust when it comes to stuff like this, but it's taking a step back and saying, how can I be responsible with my data, and making sure that you're working really cross-functionally with IT, legal, and finance.
Yep.
Amazing.
And I would piggyback on that to the first poll question as to where everybody's at in their AI journey. And I think that is a foundational starting point is around the policies and the framework of how your organization is going to leverage AI and what is your policy around using it. And I would encourage, I continue to learn stuff every day about AI, but not just about how we're using it today, but no matter what model you're using, right? Who within the organization is monitoring the changes that are happening to that model? And what implications does that have on your policy? So there really does require that governance structure, or, will most likely fall into IT hands, right? But making sure that that is a component of ongoing, maintenance, if you will, of your AI strategy as an organization and what needs to be modified or updated.
But Kim, honestly speaking, yes, all these policies, privacy, legal aspect, they all have to be incorporated. But remember, these are being very heavily incorporated only in those industries that have compliance risk, right?
Yep.
But there are industries who don't have to follow compliance. So what happens to them? Honestly speaking, they still collect data one way or the other to train their models behind the screens that we are not aware of. And if everybody agrees to me, AI has always existed, just in different names, different shades, different intensity in different generations. So AI has always existed. AI is just getting such a spotlight today because it's doing some amazing things. It has come as a hand-holding tool for us and for various other obvious reasons, but AI has always existed. So yes, we have to depend on education. We have to depend on governance. We have to depend on privacy and policy. But what is that we as organizations can do is beyond all that, build ethical product. When I say ethical product, put trust in design before tech, right? So trust by design. What that means is even if you're not a compliant industry, when you're collecting data, be very explicit about it and to educate people as to what you're collecting, where you're using it, how you're using it, where human stays in the loop, so that you're avoiding that shadow AI and you're rather building a very psychological safety, both internally and externally. So as you said, beyond all this policy and privacy, I think the culture risk is just that trust erosion. So from generic praise or from hidden monitoring or using AI for the sake of AI, the antidote is just to keep it very simple, have human edited recognition, keep human in the loop, have transparent change logs on the governance, as you just said, on the models. and just be very ruthless on and focus on outcomes rather than anything else. So I think when you close all of those gaps and loops, AI becomes more confident rather than you having it to shadow your back.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely. And I think one of the common questions, kind of perceived as a challenge, if you will, and at least what our customers are expressing. So in a performance evaluation or a goal setting, I have the ability to add comments, right? And a manager being able to start those comments and use AI to rewrite it, right? I think one of the challenges is making sure that our leaders, that's great that they're using AI, but they also need to then take that AI response and personalize it and make sure they're validating it and it's taken in context versus just hitting accept that AI comment and letting that replace whatever you have prompted it with. So I think many organizations are feeling a little bit of that challenge and trying to understand how do we best address it. And from what I can see right now, it's really just that education to our leaders on how to best utilize it and how to best utilize AI, especially around comments.
I think to that point, Kim, I think, and Anna, to yours as well, and both of you being in product, one of the things I've noticed just in different various HR groups and speaking with my peers is, as a purchaser and a buyer and somebody who is vetting this technology, one of the questions I've been asking is how the model is made and who it's made by. When we understand the conception of it and we understand the bias around it, there's a lot more education that goes into the decision making. We are a longtime user of a performance management platform, and in that platform about 3 years ago, I helped create the beta around the AI usage. And one of the biggest things that we were sitting there at the table at a conference with a bottle of wine, and we are dreaming. I love to dream. We know this. And we are dreaming about how we could do this and how we could do this effectively. And one of the biggest things that came about, and it's in market now, is utilizing AI to adjust data that the person already put in. So here's and Kim, to your feedback of like, how do we adjust it is, okay, it's in there. We've had this congruent communication, more content's coming in, and the AI model then ingests all of that information. It's no bias because it's from you. And then it is allowing the person to write feedback or take away time bias and allowing it to come up in a performance review. And that has been so interesting because I was there at the conception and understood how the model was created. It's been one of those things that I ask every time we interview a vendor is, who's creating this? What was the goal of it? And how is it run now? And it just allows you to have a little bit more trust in it. So when you go train your team, you can have confidence in putting it in against the governance and the policy and the process, and you can write your policy to the identification of its conception.
Completely agree with you, Steph. Like, yes, that transparency is extremely important. And when you are transferring that knowledge down or trickling it down to your own internal teams, it's also important that even if it's a vendor buying product, you still have to take their consent. Is it okay for you to participate? As an organization, we get the buy-in collectively. Like, we are buying this vendor. Who's using the data that's coming from you? But do we have your buy-in? Because even within
And does it go backwards? Like, right?
Yes.
So yeah, we're giving information one way. Is it taking it? We got to know. Like, and I think that, and as you talk about it and as you build it, I think it just becomes more and more. I already wrote a note down, but it becomes more and more important around the information that we're getting and receiving.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for the panel before we wrap up today. And I want to bring it back to the topic of recognition. And so how can we use AI to boost that recognition while keeping, the human connection, trust, authenticity intact? And Anna, maybe I'll throw this one to you first. We can address Stephanie in the chat's comments about, how can AI and recognition be hand in hand?
Yeah. So before I come to the human point, I just piggybacking off of what we were talking. Yes, it's extremely important we keep everybody in the loop of what data we are collecting and everything. I'm sure Steph and Kim will have more to add to this, but quickly I will talk about a feature that we have within Bucket List today. We have an AI powered recognition. Like I know a lot of our competitors just have their ChatGPT or OpenAPI ingested into their product, and they they ask AI to write a recognition, and they probably publish that in their platform. But where BL is differing, Bucket List is differing, is yes, we do have AI within our platform, but we still ask users to write the recognition. So it's a human written recognition that AI will only enhance it or catch it for a bad language or for an inappropriate language that does not tie to the core value of the organization. And then it will repost it, and or it will make suggestions. And if the user does not accept, and if they still post a recognition that's not accepted, there is a human intervention where the admin goes through each and every recognition. So when I say we build ethical products, trust by design, this is where BL stands for itself. Like we are building a human interactive product, and we have human in the loops where we are just not taking the help of AI, but we are amplifying things with AI. So to answer your question, it is very, very important how we are doing this, and Bucket List does that. And also we are building a couple other interesting features going forward within Bucket List, which is AI-powered insights and a culture coach that is an email digest for our managers. But both these places, there is human intervention, but with these two features, managers are going to get actionable, timely nudges to recognize every contribution and close the gaps in the team engagement. So it is very, very important humans stay in the loop. And with all these new features that Bucket List is coming, and I'm sure AI is going to be a more educative thing, a more hand-holding thing within the platform, and people are going to completely enjoy it and understand how important it is to know the data that we are collecting, but how important it is to have that human intervention within the loop. But I'll hand it over to Steph and Kim to see what more they have done.
Yeah, no, I would just add on to that, Anna. I think it could be the analytics of that, right? And the utilization of that recognition is a great resource for learning teams to understand who among their leadership teams are doing a good job and reviewing those recognition notes and personalizing them versus, we may identify, hey, we have this group of 10 leaders that are just, cutting and pasting, right? Or just accepting it and putting it in, but not personalizing it, and identifying opportunities for coaching and development to get those leaders to where they need to be to truly drive the culture of the organization.
Yeah, this AI is not, as you said, it's not only going to coach the managers, but it's going to completely kill the silos, bias. It's going to create a very equitable environment, a place where everybody feels like they want to come back the next day and feel safer. So AI is, I always repeat, AI is a great tool, but it all depends on the way we embrace it and we look at it.
Absolutely.
Steph, do you have anything to add?
Honestly, I think the two of you said it perfectly. I would just double tap on the analytics around coaching and development on the words that we are already saying, and creating space and time for managers and to create more of an inclusive and equitable environment. Double tap.
I love that. In that case, we are almost nearly at time it's almost time to wrap up. If anyone has any questions for Q&A, I think we'll have time for one. So whatever questions you have, just post it in chat. We'll take a look after. So one last lightning round question just to wrap everything up with the panel here. In your opinion, in your experience, no matter how advanced technology gets, what's one human-centered principle of culture that we must never lose sight of?
Personalization.
Connection.
Yeah.
100% trust.
Trust, connection, and personalization.
Yeah, no matter how advanced the technology gets, no matter how many different versions of AI come, culture is ultimately about people as individuals, and personalization respects each employee's unique contribution, preferences, and needs. So personalization, connection, these are things that no technology can replace us and shouldn't replace.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. Beautifully said. All right. Any last words from either any of you before I start sharing my screen, share the ending pieces, and we go into Q&A? No? All right.
I think we
Perfect. And Anna, you got a +1 from Aussie in the chat. So there you go.
Hey, Ozzy.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. My billion tabs. Okay. Okay, all right. Doing the feedback poll. Oh, yes. So just really want to quickly switch gears and let all the panelists talk a little bit about their organization, the work that they're doing. Anna, did you want to share a bit more about Bucket List?
Yeah, as I said, Bucket List is a SaaS platform. We are building products that will help organizations build great culture. We have an extensive marketplace where you can enhance your user experiences and productivity and morale by offering them some personalized rewards. But also know that we are exploring into AI. We are coming up with some exciting features like the AI Insights, the Culture Coach, which we call internally, which is the email digest for managers. So yeah, some great things to adopt to. But we recently launched an external recognition feature where we are letting our customers recognize those people who are not part of the platform, but then they do some amazing work for you. So please go ahead, try Bucket List, and try some exciting features that we have launched and we are yet to launch. You will keep hearing from us. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to be in this whole conference for the last 2 days. And yes, Bucket List is great.
Awesome, thank you. Kim, would you like to talk about PeopleFluent?
Yeah, so as I said before, PeopleFluent is also a SaaS platform that really focuses in on the entire employee journey, right? And having an integrated platform to allow you to use different components, right, as the organization is ready, whether it be talent management of performance and succession planning, which over the years has become a very hot topic of who do we have within our organization that we need to retain, which brings us back to culture, which brings us back to reward and recognition of those individuals that we're developing the future talent of our organization, whether it be reskilling our teams, whether it be operationally, whether it be culturally, etc. Our platform can help do all of those things, and conversations are starting, right, around, we've had recognition rewards, whether it be a gift card or a company umbrella or a Starbucks gift card, right? But we're starting to hear more conversations around more of paying for skills and how do I recognize and retain individuals for developing new skills that the organization needs to be successful and achieve their overall goals. And of course, learning a foundational element of it all, being able to develop and retain individuals through those processes. And then organizational charting and visualization is just really to help organizations visualize their staff. What does that look like? What do we need for the future? And be able to create models to help predict for you where organizations may need to identify new talent, bring in new talent, etc. So if you're interested in, some people are still on paper, believe it or not, doing those performance evaluations on paper, that want to move into an automated type of platform that meets your organizational process. We would love to hear from you, have some additional conversations, and figuring out how we can support you to be successful.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Stephanie, did you want to share a little bit more about Tagboard?
Yeah, it's a completely different space. We are taking on media and entertainment industry in a way that hasn't been seen before. So it's a really cool opportunity to take an archaic system and turn it into a really progressive disruptor. Keep an eye out for when you're watching Go Mariners. I'm in Seattle. Watching a Mariners game or watching a football game or watching the news, you're able to see a graphic system on the bottom, any sort of social content flowing through. That is us 9 times out of 10. But it's a really cool opportunity to be a disruptor in the industry. So I'll leave it there. Definitely a different demographic than the people space. But if anybody has any need for a graphic system that is cloud-based, you let me know.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing. I know we're right at time. So I'll just leave this professional development credit slide up on screen here for y'all to note it down. And to wrap things up, I had a quick little recognition for each of you. These are cards that Sarah, our keynote speaker, has, and so she graciously gave me a few, and I have so much fun with these. But I have one for each of you. So the first one, this is for Anna.
Ah.
Anna, combine creativity with practicality. You're just so good when it comes to the product stuff, making sure we get what we need.
Thank you so much.
And for Stephanie, you are kind and considerate of the feelings of others and just really shines
Aw.
through that you do. And lastly, for Kim, you are a very strategic and innovative thinker, and all your clients are very lucky to have you at their helm.
Thank you.
Very sweet.
Of course, yeah. And Ozzy, just seeing your question in the chat. Sarah, I believe Sarah McDonald sells on her site. So Greatness Magnified, take a look. They're so fun to give away and at networking events too. So highly recommend you all take a look. All right, that concludes the end of our conference. That is everything. Thank you everyone for such a fun, jam-packed 2 days. Lots of comments, lots of great nuggets and insights. Very grateful to, of course, all the speakers for sharing your time, your wisdom, being so generous with your experiences and sharing with all of us so that we can all elevate as one and move forward and hopefully put lots of be able to really elevate our recognition efforts together as well. So thank you everyone so much for being here, and we'll see you all at the next event.